It's a really nice day.
All right, ready?
Yep.
What's up, folks? My name is PJ,
And I'm Blake.
and today we're doing episode 26, talking about ex-church cultural value, which is kids' church is just as important as big church.
You better believe it.
Sounds great.
Sounds good. I mean, just like a lot of the other culture values, I feel like on the surface, it sounds great.
Yeah.
You know?
Before we get too far, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and like this video or dislike this video. It's very, very much helpful to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yep. So we have some notes here that we wrote down about our thoughts on kids' church is just as important as big church. I'm sure you guys have some other thoughts that maybe more on the inside of kids' church that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to share those too, or correct us if we're wrong. But this is just our feelings on this cultural value,
Yes.
which I feel like it's one of those cultural values that it's like, well, I take that back. Never mind. I feel like it's kind of a unique cultural value. So like we were talking before the episode, and I really don't feel like kids' church is just as important as big church. Really is triggering to me. Doesn't
Right.
really give me any bad feelings or anything. You know, I didn't really ever specifically feel like that was a stupid cultural value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I feel like with this one, it was more how. Well, I feel like with this one, it was actually that kids' church was more important than big church.
Yeah.
And that made it hard for a lot of the other teams to accomplish things that they wanted to accomplish. Whether it be volunteers getting taken from their team
Yeah.
to go serve in kids' church. Just stuff like that, whether it be the budget was always going there.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like is most triggering about this specific cultural value is not the value itself. And because this was actually one of the values that they did live out, I would say. Like be humble or be authentic. It was like they were super opposite of that. This one I felt like they actually did live it out, but to an extreme where it made it everyone that's serving back there is like the best person in the whole entire world, and why can't you guys be more like them?
Yeah, it was kind of more subliminal, like manipulation, and like kind of like that. It's ironic because I feel like I have this like analogy of like of like the kids' church was like the good kid that you always get you always get like compared to. Like,
Yeah.
the good kid that never f's up. The good kid that just does whatever they're told and doesn't break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. Like I feel like that's how they treated kids' church. It was like, I know they're landscaping right now. Hopefully that doesn't get too annoying and you can still hear us. But yeah, you usually felt bad because you didn't perform as well as kids' church did.
Right. Whether or not they were actually doing good stuff.
Well, that's a whole nother point too. Because they forever were in good favor with the executive pastor because it was kind of her baby. It was like her brainchild. All these child analogies.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
Well,
do
it's
that.
so kids' church, so.
Her baby, her brainchild. It's kids' church. No, but so in the earlier years, there really wasn't a very profound kids' church. There wasn't a lot going. It was like daycare, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but that wasn't the best thing. So, the executive pastor, senior pastor, set out to just completely revamp it, you know, and drop like 20 grand on it, you know, what's it called, raised money for painting and like murals and toys, Xbox TVs, shirts, all this stuff. And honestly, like, that was one of her most shining moments to me, and one of the biggest things I feel like I could give her credit for was she was actually at her best when she did that. And obviously not perfect, but that was probably the best I ever saw her, the nicest I ever saw her, the happiest I ever saw her.
Yeah.
And you know, that kind of morphed later on, because then it became something it didn't have to become. I feel like that's how everything started out, with good intentions. It's like, you know, we have this great idea and this great vision, and then it would just get twisted into something greedy. And it's like, now I want other people to do what I just did just as well as I did. And you know, like, yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but
yeah. Well, I feel like it's interesting to think about that, because she went to school to be a teacher. She loves kids. It totally made sense that she was in that area and did well there.
yeah.
And then I feel like when things started going downhill for her personally, which obviously made the church go downhill as well, is when she got promoted to be, like, in training to be the executive senior pastor of, like, all of the adults and everything like that too, and not like just the kids. And I felt like she was very overwhelmed. She didn't know what she was doing, which is understandable, you know. And then I feel like that's when all of the kind of scandalous stuff with her really started happening, is because she's not, like, I feel like there are people who are made to work with kids, and I feel like you know, she's one of them. She loves kids. And so when you're trying to do something you're not, like, made for, not meant to do, it can be very stressful, you know. And so I feel like she's
nobody
always,
ever.
I just feel like she was trying to do something that, like, it's okay if you're not good at that, accept it, and, like, be the kid church pastor or something.
Yeah. Nobody ever did it as good as she did. Nobody ever really cared about it as much as she did, which is so funny, because isn't that how everything is?
Yeah.
Anyone who owns something, they're going to be the ones that care about it the most.
Yeah.
And like, I heard Gary Vee talk about this. Like, if you want people to act like owners of your company, then make them part owners of your company.
Right.
If you pay them like an employee, they're going to act like a fucking employee, because it isn't their shit. And that's probably
a good point.
That's probably the biggest downfall of that church, and maybe all churches, is it's like, you want people to take your mission and your vision and run with it because you said so, because God anointed you as this head honcho person. And it just doesn't work that way. Like, you like doing what you do so much because you get benefits from that. You like what you do. You get the honor, you get the money, you know. It's like, this is your thing. You can fire people and kick people out as you please.
Yeah.
And everybody else is just a pawn.
Yeah.
So, like, of course, churches fail all the time like that and split, because it's like, well, what is the incentive for me to stay here?
Yeah.
I can have God and Jesus and help people anywhere.
That's true.
So I feel like that was why, just getting way off track, but that was why she was the best at kids' church. Partly because she really loves kids, I believe that. And but partly because, you know, being like a uninsightful leader and a unemotionally intelligent leader that couldn't actually pass off authority in the right way, so that people actually feel like they own it and they don't just answer to the owner of it. Like, that's why it didn't really, it went downhill after that. You know, the toys, all the stuff, it wasn't maintained well.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't maintained like shitty, but it's like, you have a bunch of people that have day jobs and they come here to like do this as a volunteer. You know, you had 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to raise money to work in that place every, you know, sun up to sundown if you wanted to. And then other people got shit because they didn't do as good.
Right. And it's like, I'm working on it maybe a third the amount of time that you are, and you expect me to do it better and have more people back here. I was just reminded when you were talking about that time where I don't remember what happened, but for some reason, like, oh, she was like wanting to redo something in the hallway, and we all painted the hallway that night. We like stayed up really late and we all painted the hallway and stuff. So it was like a purple hallway and we painted it all like a bunch of colors. And there was like a ton of people there. And we all went there because she was like on one, because she was upset that, gosh, I don't remember why.
She walked in and there was like dirt on the baseboard or something. I'm pretty sure it was something that just set her off.
Yeah.
And it was like, nope, we need to get all the teams here. This is not excellent. Everybody needs to come here right now and paint this. Or maybe it started off with trying to get a contractor or somebody to do it, but it actually cost money. So it was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to handle this ourselves. And it takes at minimum a year, almost every day, painting to become a proficient painter. So you get a bunch of people in there that don't know what the fuck they're doing as usual. And it's like, it turned out,
we were painting yellow over that dark purple. Had to do like so many coats.
Yeah, it's one thing to enable people to volunteer and contribute and do all that stuff. That's great. But it's another thing to do it in the name of excellence and then have people do it that cannot do it with excellence.
Right.
That was like the story of my life there. That was the story of everyone's life there. It's like,
and yes.
Why aren't you a pro?
So that's another thing too. She was like harping on the people who she put in charge, so like New Kids pastors at the time. She was like, you know, this is an excellent like seriously, I have to come in here and like change all of this stuff and like get everyone here to do this. Like, why aren't you guys doing this? And like for a month or two after that, it was like all we were talking about was like how bad the kids' church pastors were.
Really?
Yes. And like, oh my gosh, so many meetings about
they need
like,
to be restored.
Like they're like not capable. Like I shouldn't have to go back there and like do stuff. And they both still had full-time jobs at this point.
Right.
And we're doing like multiple small groups, like, you know. So anyway.
Not good enough.
No. So, okay.
You have another point?
Well, I was just going to look at my notes, but if you had another point, then you go ahead first.
I wrote down that it was so important to her, and so that changed all the good aspects. You know, like I feel like typically happens with a good belief system like Christianity. Mm-hmm. Love your neighbor. Do unto others, you know, like all these great things. But then people come in and it becomes so important that we need to make it, let's take it even a step further and make, you know, loving one another a rule. And then like, so the rules became the focal point of that place. And specifically in kids' church we're talking about, it was so fun and free when she did it in the beginning. It was like, it was very fun. And you know, because it was like, you know, she should have just owned that forever.
Yeah.
Because I think she cared about it a lot. She actually had like an intuition for it. Mm-hmm. And other people came in and just tried to follow the rules that she laid out. But it's hard to follow a rule when you don't understand it. Mm-hmm. You don't understand why it's a rule. And then you don't have the freedom to to bend the rules. Rules are made to be broken. Honestly, like you do have to know the rules, but once you know the rules, you can break the rules effectively.
Yeah.
And that's the same with anything. And so, anyway, I feel like I hope that's not like hell loud.
Well, I can barely hear you over it, so I don't think that's.
Well, anyway, it's just life.
We're just talking in the backyard.
Anyway, yeah. So I felt like, the gist of it was, it started out fun and free with the right intentions and motives and all that stuff, and then it became so important that it's like, no, we don't change this, and this is the rule,
right?
And that became the focal point to where, how are you supposed to enjoy your time serving, and I guess facilitating a fun atmosphere for children when you're so neurotic about, like, I don't want to break the rules.
Exactly. You're afraid you're going to get in trouble.
Oops, there's a parent back here. Oops, there was someone alone in a room with a bunch of kids.
With a bunch of windows in the whole room.
Yeah, windows everywhere and leaders walking around constantly. It's like, whoop, one of them could have got raped. It's like, I mean, I don't want to minimize that possibility, because I think that is a reality in some situations, but come on. Like if you follow that logic to fruition, it's like, well, we might as well all just stay locked up in our rooms forever.
Yeah.
Never talk to anybody. Then we'll all be safe. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And so it just became a pain in the ass to serve in kids' church, I think. And I think the people that actually, it's like in the beginning, you're sold on this idea. It's so fun. Oh, I see that you're good with kids. Come on back here. It's super fun. And then it becomes just a drag.
Yeah, which I feel like any serving anywhere at that church, that's exactly what it was.
Let's say, for example, the kids wanted to play Xbox all day. That's what the kids would want to do. That's what we bought the shit for.
Right.
But if you didn't preach the gospel to them or get through a lesson with them, you got in fucking trouble. And who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So then it was like, well, these TVs just pretty much sat there off. Games just sat there, like, blocked off.
Taunting the children, because it's like 2 feet away from them.
I know.
And that was the thing, too. It was like, she got all these ideas because she went to this, like, huge church that had, like, a jungle gym inside and, like, all this, like, cool stuff for the kids, which is, awesome. That's really great. But then you can't, if your room is, like, this big and you have all those toys right there, and then you're going to try to rein the kids in, it's like, they can see it right there. It's like, they're not going to pay attention to you. They're just going to wait until you're done so they can, like, play their games again.
Yeah. And to their credit, I think, despite that, I think kids really did engage. Kids really did have a good experience. I think the teachers really dealt with the leadership well.
Yeah.
And I actually really did admire a lot of their ability to just come in and volunteer and do such a good job. I guess that was all I had to say about that. Yeah, I think despite it being very almost like militant after a while, I think the kids did enjoy it definitely more than the Sunday school I went to as a kid. So it was a slight improvement.
Yeah. I loved Sunday school when I was a kid.
I hated Sunday school. I had this chick, she had a bowl cut, and I was in there with my little brother, didn't know anybody else. He was afraid, started crying. And so they put him in a dark room with other kids that were crying, that they couldn't stop crying. The cry room, yeah, they called it was like the cry room, and it was fucking dark.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. I guess you need a nap. Here's the floor.
That's torture. No, I loved my Sunday school growing up. It was super fun. We got snacks. We got to color. We did Bible story. There's always arts and crafts.
Well, you're a little bit younger than me. Back in my day, it wasn't that advanced.
No, I went. Well, the church I went to was pretty large. So.
I was kidding.
Yeah.
That's good though. That's good that you had a good experience. Not everybody does.
Yeah, that's true. So, well, with that though, I feel like yes, the kids had a great time, and I feel like that was kind of part of their what turned out to be a manipulation, because their whole goal, the senior pastor's whole goal, was to try to get like family, like young white families in. And so if they could have their kids begging them to go to church, you know, then the parents would feel bad. The parents would come to church and then they'd want to tithe. And I feel like they used the kids a lot to get their parents to go to church. So that's why kids' church was just as important or even more important than big church, because if your kid's begging you to do something, yeah. And I remember after like the split happened, the split happened when I was there. I know there was multiple, but the one that happened when I was there, the executive pastor ran into one of the kids who used to go to kids' church, and she was like, yeah, I don't go to church anymore, and like I miss kids' church so much. And so she, you know, the executive pastor came back to the leadership team and was sharing that story and being like, wow, can you imagine like pulling your kids out of church? Like, wow, like what damage is that doing? Like, she misses church so much. And basically saying how this woman was like not a good mom because she pulled her kids from the church. And like at the time we're all like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like that poor girl. And then now looking back, it's like, wow, that mom was really smart because she saw your bullshit and was like, I don't want my daughter growing up with you as a role model.
Yeah.
And like being manipulated the rest of her life. So she was actually doing her daughter a favor, you know.
I actually, now that we're gone or left, I mean, it's all gone.
Yeah.
Now that it's over and done with, looking back, I really envy kind of the people that had the balls to leave and not give a shit. It's like, damn,
Yeah.
like I was actually, you know, always quite opinionated as a person and confident in my own opinion, and I let them dictate my life for fucking 11 years. How pathetic that feels. Weak.
Yeah.
I hate it. But yeah, I feel like now looking back at those people, they're fucking heroes.
Yeah.
And we used to look at them and think like, wow, you couldn't hang, bro.
I know. Oh, you're just scaffolding. My gosh,
You
so
were just
annoying.
scaffolding. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for your hard work.
Yeah.
That is a good point, though, because I do feel like that's where part of what I was saying before, I guess it goes along with that, like about how it started out with the right intention and it became so greedy
Yeah.
that it was like now the kids were actually just a tool in order to build the church to this mega church level. It's like we have to, what was it, dads? We have to get the dads in or something?
Yeah. Because if the mom goes to church, then like it was like 25% of the rest of the family comes to church. But if dads go to church, like 90 out of the dads who go to church, 90% of their family comes to church.
I guess that doesn't really tie in with what my point was about kids' church, though, because that's dads. Then.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I do feel like, yeah, they used people's kids against them, and it was like, you know, just it just was used against them. It's like, you know, if somebody wanted to leave and they had kids, I can't personally say that there was stories like this. I guess maybe somebody who was there, you could, you know, testify to this, but I think, you know, the potential of their family crumbling was like, you know, I guess I can't really go anywhere with that because I don't have a specific example. All I did, I just wrote down that kids' church and kids was used to strong arm and gaslight parents.
I feel like the people who left, especially, were talked about, and it made it seem like they were the worst people ever for pulling their family out of church, which
Remedy Life Church specifically, they're just gonna go to some other place.
I know,
Their kids might become drug addicts.
right? It was so ridiculous. So it was really I mean, looking back, it was really brilliant on their part to talk about them so much like that, because the families that were left were like, well, I don't, I'm a good parent and I would never do that to my family, you know?
So you said that was good on their part?
I mean, the manipulation tactic it worked great. It was terrible that they did that, but,
Yeah.
the way that they used that and spun it in a way that made it seem like these people are so horrible, it really, like, what?
Well, I don't think it was good. I think it was effective in gaslighting other people there.
Yeah.
And that was part of why they did shit like that.
Right.
Like, one time we had this meeting about how some of the worship team was going and attending Bethel services in Reading, and they do things a lot differently than the way we did it. And
they're like a world famous church.
Fucking international. And well, of course they don't want that, because they might like that more than serving at their place.
Right.
They might recruit them or something, which is funny because kids' church was allowed to recruit from all kinds of departments within the church.
Right.
But other churches can't recruit from our church. Well, anyway, the pastor had this meeting with the worship team, and of course he comes off very friendly. How's it going, guys? Like, you're the best team out there. And I just don't feel like it's a good idea to go there. You need to guard your heart. You want to be careful what you glean from, because honestly, I feel like Bethel is a little retarded spiritually. Retarded.
That's
And
the word he used.
of course, they just ate it up, and the loyalists stopped going, and it's like, why the fuck can't churches like intermingle like that? That's one thing, honestly. Like if people, if Christians are here to do the work of the Lord, and draw people to the kingdom, and like build this family and shit like that, but like you're not allowed to go to and fro between churches and make friends elsewhere.
It's completely ridiculous. It's like, so the worship pastor on Sunday is like working his butt off, doesn't get to receive during worship, and so he gets to go to a place that's like really spiritual, where he can, like, raise his
Not
hands.
feel like he has to help.
Yeah, and he can just do whatever he wants and feel like nobody's like paying attention to him. He's not leading anybody in that moment. How awesome is that for him to do that? How refreshing that must have been for him. And then you get reprimanded for it.
Yeah.
And so all you can watch actually is video worship, or you can play your guitar by yourself in your room if you want to worship the Lord, but you can't do it like how everyone else gets to do it. That sucks.
Yeah. And anytime that you did go to an approved of church to attend, you were supposed to be taking notes so that you can better serve our church.
Right.
And like make us better.
You can't just relax and listen.
And like, if you went there and you're not coming back with some kind of wisdom or some kind of church building,
or a connection
of some kind, like why did you even go? You could have cleaned kids' church.
Right.
You could have read a book on leadership or whatever. You just went for yourself, you selfish.
It's true. And it's so frustrating.
There was one time I went. This was honestly one of the funnest times I ever had there. And it was the Hillsong conference. We rented this Airbnb, and of course it was riddled with bullshit, because that's what we were. But there were many very great moments that I chose to have because it had the potential to be such a great experience. We were out of town. It was like a break, for once, like we get to go somewhere else and hang out together, not doing our own shit. Like we could just go and hang out. And the worship pastor was telling me during one of the worship sets, I think, you should go up there and ask the sound people how they're doing things and watch what they're doing and blah blah blah. And I just was like, I was kind of like internally, I was like,
Well, I was enjoying myself.
I would love to sit my happy ass here and just experience the community of God for once.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made me feel like what I do or, isn't good enough. And also that if I see an opportunity to glean something for my team, for my leadership ability or whatever, that I can't think for myself and take that task on myself. You had to take the time to make sure. It's just the whole place was so micromanaged. It was so micromanaged and just poor leadership. I'm definitely like I'm venting because it was such a bad experience. And I went up there and I did kind of look at what they were doing, but they're fucking working.
Yeah.
So here, some person who paid to attend your thing is just gonna come. I'm gonna walk down into your sound booth and start watching you and asking you questions and shit. No, I stood back, like I kind of asked questions when I was approached by them, because I did a couple times, and I was like, hey, I do sound for my church, whatever. And but for the most part, I just went up there and like enjoyed the service by myself, because I couldn't do it down there, because then I'm being lazy. I'm not helping to build connections and shit.
Right.
It was just very bad. It was just a very bad experience, a bad memory, but overall that trip was like really awesome.
That's interesting, because I had good and bad experiences on that trip too. And one of the things that bothered me, this might be a little bit long, so just
go for it.
Okay. So there is this girl who came to our church who was majoring in like video animation, and she was like really artsy and cool, and I felt like I really connected with her. But the first person she met was a kids church leader. And so that was now her leader, because she's the first person that she met. So obviously, she's mine,
Yeah.
And I think she like shared the gospel with her or something. Anyway, but still, this girl and I would connect. Like, she would come over to my house, talk about art stuff, like all the time. And we just like had a really good connection with like creativity. And there's not really that many girls in that field, like out of all of the people that are in the creative field, movies and stuff like that, like 3% of them are women, and that includes like actresses. And so it's very small. And so when you find that connection with like another girl, you're like, yes. And so I really wanted her to be on the creative team, but because the kids church person was her leader, she was now on the kids church team. And I thought that was stupid. But anyway, so she got invited to the Hillsong thing. And we, rented the Airbnb, and there was like 30 of us in like a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Like, all the single guys were sleeping in the living room all together, and so it was like very, very crowded.
Yeah.
And this girl is an extreme like introvert. And I am not a morning person also. So like, especially before I've had my coffee, right when I wake up, like I don't want to hear anyone's bullshit. I just want silence, And so I wake up one morning.
Only for you?
I wake up one morning and people are already yelling and screaming in the hallway, having a great time for themselves, And I'm like, I just need a second, because this is too much. And so I go into the room where the single girls are sleeping, because I thought no one was in there. And I open the door, and then this girl's like laying on the bed, and I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't know you were in here. I just like needed a moment of silence. And she was like, that's why I'm in here. And I was like, can I just like lay on the bed next to you? We won't say anything for like 20 minutes. And she was like, that sounds great. And so we literally laid there in like perfect silence, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my good memories from the trip. But then again, I was thinking, I feel like I can really connect with her. How come she's not on my team?
That was from the Hillsong thing?
Yeah. And so I was like, I was really frustrated that she wasn't on my team, and I felt like it was because she was really cool and they wanted the kids to like connect with her because she was like really cool.
Well, that's the same shit they tried to pull on me. It was like, and the kids did think I was cool.
Because you are cool.
Yeah, and so that was the same shit they tried to manipulate me into that position with, even though I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
I kind of did want to be there, but I didn't want to be there. I already had other things I was doing. So it's like they didn't look out for your time. They didn't look out to make sure that you're like, budgeting your time in a healthy way. They didn't do that. The more you can do, the better. And like, like with her, I think I know who you're talking about. And it's like, she didn't do bad in kids' church, but
no,
she just would have been way better in some kind of creative department. And that's just that, that's, I was also going to say, kids' church wasn't just used to strong arm and gaslight parents. It was used to strong arm and gaslight other team members too, and other leaders that weren't leading as well as the kids' church. Because yes, the person who was in charge of kids' church was great at recruiting people. She on first impression was also cool, was bubbly, fun, and until you get sucked into that department and you're basically, now you're just another pawn.
Yeah. And
you're kind of like wrestled into this position of submission. Anyway, that takes a lot of explaining, I guess, but the point is, leaders were compared to these people who were good at recruiting for their department, and that usually felt bad. It was like, well, they're really good at this, I'm not good at that, so I'm not a great leader. I need to observe them and witness how they're so great at doing what I suck at. It's like your strengths weren't highlighted. It's like, right, you're so good at this, thanks, do more of that. No, it was like, stop. You're really great at that one thing, but like, why aren't you doing this other stuff? And that's how everything was spun. Anyway, one more point on that. It's like, if we were smart, or let me just rephrase that. If the leaders of that church were smart, they would have seen the opportunity to like, let's put these people who are great at recruiting and not great at actually like leading their teams just in charge of recruiting, and help people that want to serve to find a place that they're good at serving and enjoy. And that way everybody gets to benefit from their awesome, recruiting ability. It's not like everybody that's good at fucking teaching people how to run a soundboard is good at going out and talking to complete strangers and saying, like, hey, you want to know how to use this confusing ass machine? No.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I made that suggestion, I don't know how many times, and it was so frustrating. I was like, 90% of creative people are shy, introverts even. Okay?
Even level 5 leaders.
Even level 5 leaders. Yes, exactly. I would consider myself extroverted, but even I have a hard time going up to people I don't know, trying to figure out what they like to try to get them on my team. It's like, it's uncomfortable and it's awkward. But for some people, it's really not. They love it. And so how great would it have been if it was like, okay, you're really, really good at talking to people, getting to know them, finding out what they like in a natural way, and then you can recruit them to a team. And it's like, that's your only job. Please do that, because that's what you're really good at. But I feel like what they tried to do there was make everybody good at everything. And that's just not reality. Yes, everyone can improve on their skills and stuff, But if somebody is really great at leading the people that they have on their team, but they're not great at recruiting, give them more people, see what happens. You know, it's like, don't make that person feel like they're a shitty leader when in reality they're not. They're actually a really good leader because they actually care for the people that are on their team, you know? So that was like, it was so refreshing. And that was one of the things that always got compared to the kids' church people. It's like, well, they have a team of this many people, you know? And it's like, well, ask the people on that team what they think of the leader. They're not going to give you good answers.
Yeah. So many thoughts.
Yes.
I mean, everything that we're getting off of kids' church, but it's like, you know, everything was about becoming a great fucking leader.
Yeah.
Everybody has to be a great leader. And honestly, what probably was at the heart of that was that they were tired of leading. And they wanted to pass it off and just ride the coattails of other great leaders, but get all the honor for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it was. But to bring it back to like kids' church a little bit, men were basically assumed to be predators in kids' church.
Yes.
Men weren't allowed to be in a room, even multiple men, without a woman present, which may or may not be a comforting thing to parents. I'm not sure. You know, if I dropped off our daughter in a kids' church room and there was women walking around the whole kids' church and there's windows everywhere, you know, I don't know that I would feel bad, except that I've been there already. So I feel like it's already like ingrained in my head, like, oh, it's bad for like a group of male teachers to lead a kids' church room.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's like, definitely there are predators in the world. There's bullshit in the world. It's not just men, it's also women.
Yes.
But the way they like choreograph things, it's like men were automatically a threat, automatically a predator, and that's just really defeating. To go into a place and actually, like, some people were labeled, I guess, like labeled as and gossiped about as predators, not for doing anything wrong, but just for breaking their rules of, like, you know, hey, so and so, you're not allowed to wrestle with the kids. It looks weird. And one person specifically, who I'm friends with, like, I hope we're still friends, but was friends with for sure, was like left. He was like, I found myself questioning my intentions when playing with my own nephew. Am I a pervert? Like, am I a pedophile because I want to wrestle with my... Nah, fuck this. I'm out of here. And
Yeah.
he left the team, and, like, fucking kudos to him, because that's bullshit. You shouldn't have to feel like you're a pedophile for wrestling with your fucking own family.
Yeah.
Like your nephew, your cousins, like, you know, your kids, just because you're a dude. Like, that was so
Yeah.
pathetic and just not intuitive. It's like, you did a background check on the guy. You see the guy all the time. You're labeling him as a pedophile, potential pedophile, because he wrestled with the kids, which kids do.
Yeah. If a kids wrestle with you all the time, what are you supposed to do? No, sorry. Like,
Sorry,
make them
sorry,
feel
kid.
weird.
I'm a guy, and it's not right for guys to wrestle with kids. Now that kid grows up with this fucking perception of men, like, oh, you don't wrestle with kids.
Right.
You want to see yourself as this fucking high and mighty, you know, it's so great for kids to go to kids' church, and how dare you take them out of kids' church and all this stuff. Like, but then you're like ingraining that kind of thinking in them.
Yeah, I feel like that again goes back to all of the rules and cultural values, and it's like, it starts off with good intentions. Yes, you definitely do not want people who are potential pedophiles in kids' church. Obviously, that's good, but at the same time, you can't, like, alienate all of the men so badly that all of them are, like, afraid to, like, you know, even, like, talk to one of the little girls. Well, what if she you know, It's
And
like,
that guy was there for like 5 years. Like 5 years. So they did their background check on him. He never did anything to betray trust. He proved himself, but that wasn't good enough.
mm-hmm.
We're still going to assume the worst of you.
Yeah. And yeah, I think, I mean, going back to what you were saying earlier about like dropping our daughter off at a place with, if there was just two males in there, well, I would feel better, yes, if there was windows and there was women walking around there, and it would depend how the guys presented themselves.
Right.
If they were,
sorry.
well, I just, there were some people, anyway.
Some people are questionable. That's fine. Talk with them. Get close to them. Get to know them.
That guy
That's your
wasn't
fucking job.
though.
You're the leader. Like, whatever. But it's like, use common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And like, don't just, it was a rule that men are suspicious
Mm-hmm.
if they would be okay with being in a room alone with 10 kids.
And I think the really unfair thing with that too is that the executive senior pastor did wrestle with kids, girls and boys. And so
But girls could do that. Guys can't do that.
Exactly. And that's what was so frustrating. It's like, if that's going to be a rule, then make it a rule for everyone and say that's the rule here. Not because, oh, men might do this. Because honestly, there was one person at the church who was accused of, and I think later, like, it came out that it was true, of like doing stuff with an underage boy. It was a woman. And so that rule should be a blanket rule. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a
Not
woman.
a kid's church boy, an underage boy.
Yeah,
still.
underage. He was a youth. He was in high school. But still, I mean, my point is that women can be pedophiles too. It's not just men. And so it was really frustrating to see like these men of God that we knew to be like really great guys, definitely not pedophiles, like made to feel like they have to question every single thing that they do, and the women can just freely do whatever they want. I feel like that's unfair. If it's a rule, it should be a rule for everyone no matter what.
Yep. That's pretty much all I have about that. You got more?
Nope.
Kids' church was just as important as big church, which in and of itself, that cultural value is bait, because they want people to know we're a one-stop shop.
Yep.
Other churches don't make kids' church as important as big church. We're a one-stop fucking shop. You can come here. We got something for your kids, dads, moms. We got it all covered. We're the best.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so egotistical, and just like everything there was so egotistical. It's like, you probably shouldn't go anywhere, and you're probably stupid if you go somewhere else, because this is the best one, obviously. What's wrong with you? Okay, well, whatever, bye.
Exactly.
So egotistical, just cocky, prideful piece of shit church. So, am I closing or you?
You go ahead.
All right, well, this has been the Church Podcast, episode 26.
Yep.
If you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe, share comments, many more good videos and interesting topics to come.
And we are launching our Patreon hopefully this week.
All right.
So we'll put a link to that below if
That's
you guys
cool.
want to check it out.
Got some cool ways for you guys to help support us if that's what you choose. But just watching is supportive, so thanks.